The A4Q AI portfolio brings together 3 certifications, each designed to strengthen your understanding of AI from a different perspective. You can start with A4Q AI Essentials to gain a clear understanding of how AI works and how to apply it ethically and effectively. Explore A4Q AI Foundation to deepen your knowledge of AI methods, risk awareness, and quality assurance, bridging the gap between innovation and responsibility. And finally, the new A4Q Certified Professional for AI Compliance, a specialized program focused on the EU Artificial Intelligence Act. Here, you'll explore risk classification, governance, conformity assessment, and post-market monitoring, all the key elements organizations need to stay compliant in the new regulatory era. Explore the A4Q AI portfolio and take your next step toward AI you can trust.
Hello and welcome back to this new session of the A4Q Testing Summit 2026. I'm happy to welcome Bruno Legeard to this session. Hello, Bruno.
Hello, Kenza. Hello, everyone. And thank you for joining. My name is Bruno Legeard. I lead the AI lab at Smart Testing, and I work on the Linka agent. So today I want to share you a practical question on whether we should use agentic test execution or scripted test automation. It's exactly nowadays where we are in the technology. So the idea is really to share a decision matrix and firstly to understand what is exactly AI test execution. So I will start by provocation in one way. The agentic technology is now at a point where we can automatically execute functional tests from manual description, from natural language description directly on the application under test. And the question is, should we continue to automate it with the old way, meaning writing script, including the fact that we can generate a script, but perhaps coding a test is a false solution. So it's what we will discuss, but also actually we will compare both on the decision matrix. So here is the agenda. First, I will introduce what is the state of the art, what is agentic test execution, how it works, what it changes for QA. I will present an implementation, which is Linka for X-ray, meaning an AI agent for test execution embedded in the test management tool. It's an example. And then I will compare both, meaning agentic test execution on AI-assisted scripting, and we'll finalize by examining the return of investment on how you can gain with agentic test execution. So let's start. If we consider the situation, and it's well known for majority of you, of course, we have what we know is a manual testing depth. Manual test execution is slow, and we have the speed, and we have this increase of code. So it's not it's not possible to continue with manual testing. But in the other way, we know that scripting is heavy task, and you have to delay between you need the resources. So we have this sort of problem. And now we have this capability of agentic test execution to close these gaps. Okay, so then how it works? How works agentic test execution? Agentic text execution means an AI agent that runs your test cases. That can be manual test cases written, as test action on expected result, or Gherkin description, given when then, test scenarios. And you don't need for execution scripting, you don't need code, you don't need managing locators, because the agent is able to understand the test intent, able to plan the exact action to do on the interface, on the graphical user interface, and to manage verdict for each step, analyzing the expected result on the actual result. On the basis of visual analysis, on screenshot, providing rationale, and for the user of functional QA or test analyst. And when you go on AI-assisted scripting, you use your traditional test automation framework like Playwright, Cypress, Selenium, and it's code again, meaning that you generate the code and then you have to, by using AI, but you have to fix the code and then to execute the code. So that's the meaning. If you consider this new way, which is agentic test execution, at the basis you have an AI model, multimodal reasoning model, using tools, meaning the capability to act on the user interface, to fulfill, to apply, to fulfill fields, to download attachment, to click on buttons, to use drop-down menu, everything. Now we are able to do that. The computer use feature of this kind of model help for this. But you have also planning first, meaning on the basis of the intent of the steps, actions have to be defined. The analysis of where we are on the application based on the screenshot help the agent to know exactly the action, but also to provide the verdict, to provide the analysis on the step or test verdict. And one important difference between agentic test execution or scripted is that on the basis of what really happened on the application, the agent is able to react, meaning to, for example, there is one pop-up and the agent takes a decision to close the pop-up and to report. Everything is reported in the action. So is where this is the architecture on such an agent and how it works. Let's go now for a concrete example. Linka is our AI test execution agent. It works with this deployment. It works inside X-Ray. X-Ray is a test management tool inside Jira. And I will show you a short recorded demo to show you a concrete test execution, agentic test execution. You can see here in Jira, you have some tests defined in X-Ray. You have also some test exec. So we will consider a test in Google Maps. So let's start the execution. So an agentic test execution agent start from the manual test case or Gherkin test case. You can see this is a manual test case here. And you can see that this is just the normal, as is in the test repository test case. You have some actions, you have some expected result. Here you check a scenario on Google Maps, on the action are defined in the classical way the manual test is. So this is the input. And now when we go to the test exec, the execution file, you can see that there is two execution here, and we will see one execution with a failure. You will see it. So I just go a little too fast. If we go here, you can see here that we can launch in Linka test execution, agentic test execution directly in the exec. There is a button you can see here, run the test with Linka, defining the target, which is the Google test maps here, the Google Maps, and then you can run your test directly. There is nothing to create, no script, nothing, just running the test with the agent. And if we go one step further, then we start the execution, meaning that everything that happens on the system interface is recorded. The agent plans the execution, for example, a scroll down, a click on reject button, because it's what should be done. And here we are now at the level of the expected result. And graphically, it check what happens. And you can see here, there is, I will go one here. You can see there is several aspects in this expected result. On each aspect is verified by the agent. For example, this is the right station, this is the right road, and it's identified as a train station. So, everything is carefully checked here. And if we go now, and you can see it in the recorded screen that everything is consistent with the expected result. Because the idea is really to ensure transparency for the human verification of the execution. The second step here is a step where the journey, this journey from the station to smart testing location, that should take less than 10 minutes. And if I stop just to see, you can see that it's just not possible, actually. Yes, I will show you. Yes, it's exactly what I want to show you. The first part of the assertion is verified. Is this the right road? But the second part is not verified because it's not possible to drive in less than 10 minutes, to have a direction in less than 10 minutes. It's 14 minutes or something, or 13. So what does that mean? It means that the control is for each aspect of the expected result. And you can see here that this aspect is noticed and the explanation is here. So that's exactly how it works. An agent providing the evidence, providing the analysis. And if we go one step later, you can see that this is the responsibility of the QA to act, to verify the execution, and it's quick, and then to decide to save the result in the test repository, here in X-Ray. And then all evidence are then provided in the test exec, because in X-Ray it's a test exec with all control, all evidence, screenshot, and all analysis. And then you have the complete execution and everything has been. Okay, so it's now perhaps more concrete how it works this kind of test agent, a test execution agent in our case. So let's go now on the impact. The first impact is that you have no delay between the time you have your manual test case written or your Gherkin scenario, when it exists, and automated execution. It's immediate because, a test execution agent take the repository, the manual test repository or Gherkin scenario as is. The second aspect is that, and its link is that you have no code, no script, and you have no problem with locator because your application may change. The implementation is not a problem for the agent because it considers visually as a human do. And the third aspect important is that your agent provide all the information, all the evidence, that are useful to control what happens, but also to deliver for example, in case of an anomaly or discrepancy, to provide for the development team. So that's okay. So now the question. So do you think that AI test execution, which is a new approach for automated testing, should be used for everything, or should it complete AI assisted scripting, which is where we are now? And I will introduce this now. If we consider the two approaches and compare the two approaches on position each other, you can see that agentic test execution is really dedicated for functional QA, manual tester, test analyst, to gain in productivity and to save time for other tasks. But AI-assisted scripting is still for automation engineer. The input of agentic test execution is pure natural language test description or Gherkin test scenarios, and the output are all the report evidence in your test repository. Perhaps I don't want to check all, but if you compare, for example, the maintenance aspect, you have no script to maintain. You just maintain your test scenario, actually. In that case, you have to generate the code. Even if you generate with AI, you have to check the code. No code in that sense. But you have also to consider that the execution speed for an agentic test execution is not an execution of a script. Is reasoning, is invoking some tooling on checking the screenshot on the speed. It's the same than a manual tester, but you can run it in parallel. You can run it as many tests you want in parallel because it's an agent, it's not a human. And of course, assisted scripting is very fast. So let's go to the decision matrix now. Should we use agentic test execution or scripted? And it's a suite by suite or test by test decision, and we introduce 4 dimensions. Let's go to the dimension. The first one is the time to execution. If you need in sprint execution, clearly agentic test execution bring an immediate capability. You can run automatically in parallel on all your test cycle, all your test suite. If you go to AI-assisted scripting, then of course you have the time to generate the code, fix the code, and then execute the code. If now you need to run very fastly your test, and very often, in that case, of course, it's AI scripting is best. Why? Because agentic test execution is slower. It's human pace. Even you can parallelize, but it's not. You should compare with human test execution, agentic test execution, and of course you have a cost per execution, which is based on your cost of AI, which is not the case for scripting. So if you run multiple times per day, of course, scripting. If you run few times during the sprint, agentic is certain. The fourth dimension is UI stability. Of course, more volatility of the UI, new screens, and then it's more adapted for agentic test execution. If it's very stable and you are in regression testing on a very stable interface and predictable selectors, it's good to go to AI-assisted scripting. And last, the question of the oracle, it's interesting because you know, with agentic test execution, we have analysis more like a human, meaning analysis, for example, you can have some accessibility issues that can be seen by the agent, or some consideration of how the page looks like, etc. In AI, in scripting, of course, you have to code the verdict or the oracle. On coding the oracle, it's just one way. It's not AI analysis. So it's an important difference regarding the goal of your automated test. Okay, so it's a matrix. You can see, depending on where you are, for example, if you go to a new in-sprint feature with a few test cycles to validate in sprint, certainly you have to favorize agentic test execution. If you are with a very precise regression test suite that you want to run several times per day, certainly scripting is the best one. You have some intermediate situation. So, but you know, we know exactly how it complete now, and the complementary of both approach. Okay, so I will go now on the question of, the payback, the return of investment, because it's interesting to consider what are the variables to consider, what are the cost categories to consider. Of course, you have the time you save during direct execution. You have also, when you avoid some test automation, you have maintenance depth. That's part of the equation. You have also the time you save for your test, your QA engineer to do more valuable tasks also. And of course, when you dedicate some senior QA for high-level tasks on exploratory, on important aspect, on the delegating basic execution to your agent, to agentic test execution, you save important time for your QA team. So it's this aspect we have to consider. We develop a ROI calculator. So you have to consider three aspects. You have to consider the saving. You have to consider what is exactly the scope, because agentic AI test execution doesn't manage everything. There is some complex test execution that, of course, will still remain manual. And you can compute depending on the cost of your individual execution. It's the agentic platform. You can, of course, compute the payback. I will go on the, this is an example, but I will go directly on the ROI just to show you. You have this address. You can go if you want. So just to say what we can consider, just to play just a few minutes. If we consider a basic cost of €1 per execution, and you consider, the price of your manpower for manual test execution, or even for test automation, but you can change that if you want, and you can change this if you want. And then you consider the size of the QA team, the number of release, the time spent per release for manual testing, and the number of tests per release, the average test step per test. You can change everything here. And you can consider some parameters. For example, the percentage of your test suite that is executed with reliability by the agent. I mean, we have now first experience with a dozen of cases, so it's a purely pessimistic, actually, what I've seen, but just conservative. You have to consider that a fraction of this execution have to be redone, for example, to correct a way a test step is defined because it's not clear enough, for example. On the time you spend the remaining time of the human review, it's 80% based on our experience. And you have, all the settlement initially that you can have initially. So I don't want to consider, but you can see that certainly agentic test execution is really one of the AI for QA case study that bring, more rapidly the error. But I'll let you do your own work, I will say. Okay, so I see the time. So let's go to the conclusion. It's fast. So the first aspect that we have seen is that now you have a new capability, production ready, which is agentic test execution for your automated testing. Not only test automation with scripting, code generation, script generation, whatever. You can choose. And to choose, you have this kind of decision matrix regarding evolutivity, speed, etc. Then you can try it. You can experiment. You can make pilots. You can measure your payback depending on the time saving. You can also see which part of your test cycle, this new automated test execution, agentic test execution is able to do, which part, and then you can use the ROI calculator if you want. Okay, it's finished. It was short, sorry for that. If you want to go further, I wrote some articles that you can find on the Atlassian community. You don't need to be registered. So if you take this title, you will find it. You can also message me if you want. I will provide the link. So you have the business case for agentic test execution. You have also the question of how we obtain trustworthiness with 3 pillars. You can read this on the comparison between AI test execution, agentic test execution, and AI-assisted scripting. So that's finished for me, Kenza.
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you for this presentation. If you have any question to ask to Bruno, please go ahead and use the chat or comment section in the different platform we are broadcasting in. I already see some questions. So, Bruno, why still test with agentic AI generated test if the code to be tested was already generated using 90% agentic AI code? Where is the added value? Any return of experience?
Yeah, I think is where we are. There is more and more code generated, more and more tests generated, and there is a bottleneck. So now depending on where you are in your sprint, you need to ensure, the testing of your application on independent testing. And what brings the agentic test execution is a new meaning that you can, in a semi-autonomous or autonomous way, delegate this test execution without going to the code generation. And what is important to me is that, I really think that in many parts, generating test code script is a false solution for the problem of execution. And the capability to agent to directly execute, natively execute your natural language test is really a good progress, and where I think it's positioning the agentic test execution.
Thank you, Bruno, for this reply. I see that we still have a few. Bruno, for a team that wants to start, what's the minimum setup and which test do you pick first?
It's very simple, actually. The minimal setup is to have some manual test cases or Gherkin scenario ready to be executed manually, and then you go to an agent. So you can find it in your Jira, for example, but if you go to the smart testing sheet, you will see that you can experiment directly and natively with the interface with your test. So the first aspect to start is really experimenting agentic test execution, analyzing the result, see how it works. Is it reliable? And I think really it's reliable now. And if you are happy with the analysis, the verdict on everything, and then you can imagine how you can deploy internally on what can be the savings for you.
Thank you. We go to the next question. How can a QA manager trust the agent's verdict? What if it says pass, but the application actually failed?
Yeah, it's a critical question, because we know that AI is not reliable at all. But when you generate test cases, you have really to carefully, adapt your test case. It's a little bit different in the case of agentic test execution for three reasons. The first one is that the capability of what we call a GUI agent, web agent, is very strong now to interpret the task and to realizing the task. I mean, the accuracy is more than 90%, 95%. And the question is more regarding the reliability of the verdict. But here also we are very strong now. So first answer is that we reach a reliability which is more than 90-95%. But still there is some error. And what is also important is the explainability, transparency, evidence that make very easy for the QA that must control. The control is human, and the decision to accept the verdict is human. But based on the evidence, based on the action that are provided on all screenshot, is really easy to follow what happens and to check if there is any error done by the agent. So there is two aspects. First is, that now it's really functional, production ready. And the other aspect is that the responsibility is human. You don't delegate, your QA team don't delegate the responsibility. The QA team check. But at the end of the day, you save 80% or more of the time of this test execution. Kenza, we can't hear you.
Of course.
You're muted.
Thank you for this answer, Bruno. I think we have time for one more question. So from your 20 clients projects, which tests do teams still keep scripted?
It's very clear. It's really this kind of regression test you want to run, for each pull request or, several times per day. And really the methodology that I see now is really starting in sprint by your scenario for validating your user story or your more complex functional test. and then you select part of this test for regression, not all, actually. So, I mean, these users really use agentic test execution in sprint and with the volatility during this volatile period, and select part of the scenario to industrialize regression testing. So it's really separate on the way they decide between agentic test execution and scripted automation is really clear in most of this team.
Thank you. I think we have reached the end of the questions. If you have more, please don't hesitate to contact Bruno. And as for the next session, it will start by the hour on 3 different tracks until the end of the day. So check our program on the website, to find the whole presentation we have for you. And we also have sessions for tomorrow, where we will find Bruno again, who is doing a presentation in French this time.
In French, yeah. Sorry for my poor English.
No, that's perfect, Bruno. Don't forget that you can vote for Bruno as best speaker or best presentation directly on scanning the QR code. And thank you again for attending this session. Thank you, Bruno, for your insightful presentation. And we hope to see you again soon on the A4Q Testing Summit 2026.
Thank you for your conference. Thank you, Elsa. Bye.
Thank you.
The A4Q AI portfolio brings together 3 certifications, each designed to strengthen your understanding of AI from a different perspective. You can start with A4Q AI Essentials to gain a clear understanding of how AI works and how to apply it ethically and effectively. Explore A4Q AI Foundation to deepen your knowledge of AI methods, risk awareness, and quality assurance, bridging the gap between innovation and responsibility. And finally, the new A4Q Certified Professional for AI Compliance, a specialized program focused on the EU Artificial Intelligence Act. Here, you'll explore risk classification, governance, conformity assessment, and post-market monitoring, all the key elements organizations need to stay compliant in the new regulatory era. Explore the A4Q AI portfolio and take your next step toward AI you can trust.